IG. I got a hot coffee here. Okay. Oh yeah, that'll make it fun, right?
We'll see what happens with it.
Let's see, here it goes, there. Hey, Michael Haskey, what's up, buddy? Let's get rid of this now. We can do that. Let's get Cyber up on screen too. Cyber's here, everybody. Let's see, Rumble, let's call Discord. It's right there. There it is. Wow, it worked right off the bat. That is great. That makes it easier for me. What? Oh, crazy cat. Crazy cats. Crazy cats. So we've got some clean glass, and I've got a little surprise for those of you who watch all the time and you're familiar with my podcast booth. And I know what you're saying. You're like, Nay, we can see where you're in your podcast booth. We can see everything. Your podcast booth is right there. Oh, really? Oh, really? Really? Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, nice.
No more podcast booth. I'm totally out in the open now. Taco, do you think if you stop broadcasting on Facebook and that those people finally come rumble? No. No, people are lazy and stupid. So they'll just forget about me and they'll never see my show again. That's literally how it happens, bro. When YouTube started unsubscribing people, loyal subscribers, it took 5-10 years for some of those people to find me again. And then you know what they would always say? They'd be like, dude, I forgot the name of your show. And you popped up and I saw Nay's Garden and I looked at you and I'm like, that's the dude with long hair that used to smoke out. What happened to that guy? You know, it's like they unsubscribe you and you don't know the name of the show and you forget. Bro, I've lost so many podcasters that I used to love because I've been unsubscribed from their channels. And, like Amazing Atheist, I'm a big fan of that guy. I hadn't watched him in years because they fucking unsubscribed me. And there's a bunch of other really cool podcasters out there that I had already subscribed to, but, for some reason I wasn't getting notified or I was completely unsubscribed. And lo and behold, there you go. I'm left, with no one here to watch the show and no one to remember the name Trendy As Dabbers to find me. What are they supposed to do? So if the people that literally went out of their way to click subscribe to my channel and watched it all the time, if those people forgot my name and forgot how to find me on the very platform where they still were, bro, it's impossible that anybody would ever even go from another platform and leave their precious little Facebook or their precious Instagram to come over to Rumble. It's a fucking miracle. And I've never really got any good responses from the people who I shamed and said, why are you watching on Instagram? I mean, literally, you could just, instead of watching on the Instagram app on your phone, you could be watching on the Rumble app and turn your phone sideways and see the whole fucking screen. What kind of a mentality does that take to explain that to somebody that they don't understand that and they keep watching from Instagram? I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. Pop up. Jenny, black light. Zippy-dito. Listen, you guys, all of you, you're all watching on Instagram right now. It says there's one viewer. But if there's more than you, come on over to Rumble, guys. You can turn your phone sideways and see the whole screen. You guys have no idea that I've actually got this massive view here. And all you can see is a sliver because you're like a horse on Instagram and they're only letting you see a sliver. They won't even let you turn your phone sideways. I mean, what kind of a mentality of an audience member, does it display that you're satisfied with just seeing a skinny little sliver of a show when you could be watching in widescreen and you know it and you've been told this over and over again and you just refuse to download the app. You stay on Instagram and you stay on Facebook. No, bro, they ain't coming over. They ain't coming over. So, I'm not holding my breath for any of those guys. Okay, we're going to start with the easiest thing here. I've got a triple dab right here on this dabber. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lighter and I'm going to melt this off and I'm going to put it in this dish and I'm going to smoke it like that instead. I'm going to use the Nectar collector. There we go. So that was harmless. We melted it right off and now it's in our dish. We've got a little glass dish. So if you're using a Nectar collector, you would probably want to use a little piece of glass or something similar. Okay, we've got our Nectar collector. Now you guys know when I do dabs off of the bubbler, this bubbler is a new clean bubbler I brought out, but it's the same connection. It's the same bucket that I always use. That I have to wait a whole minute, or sometimes longer after I heat it up. Because I have to wait for the orange to go away and whatever, and that takes a while. But the thing about the Nectar collector is, after you heat this little metal pipe up, you're almost ready to go. I mean, you can start there. You let it cool down a little bit, you'll get an even better flavor hit. But it doesn't get as hot as that bucket will get. Or it doesn't stay that. As soon as the oil touches it, it starts cooling off. So maybe it does get hot. Maybe it does get that hot, but it doesn't retain the heat because it's such a small piece of metal. That's what she said. There, I did Cyber's thing for him.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's what she said.
It's not cool. That's not cool, bro. So what we're going to do, there was a hair on my dish and I saw it and I blew it off of there. What we're going to do is I'm going to figure out a way to get this thing elevated a little bit so I can heat it safely. I mean, one thing I can do is I can hold it and heat it. And I might just do that. That's what she said.
That is what she said.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to just... We've got water in this thing too. And it's completely orange that quick, guys. No law regarding cannabis. Cyber, you ready? All right, cheers, everybody. No law regarding cannabis. We're going in with the Nectar collector. I'm just burning off the old oil. There we go. We're good. Cheers. Cheers, Cyber. Cheers, everybody. No law regarding cannabis.
Yes, bro. Cheers, everybody.
Now, if you want to conserve your dabs, get a Nectar collector. Because look what's still... This was going to be one dab that I was going to do earlier today. Look what's still left on the dish. So it conserves the heck out of it. Let's do another dab for 710, which is coming up right now. We can do them so fast, right? Why not? All right, here we go. No law regarding cannabis. Cyber, you ready? Not yet? See, look at that. Look how fast I'm ready to go with the Nectar collector. Okay, it's 7:10.
I'm ready.
Okay, cheers, Cyber. Cheers, everybody. No law regarding cannabis. Happy 7:10.
Cheers, bro. Cheers, everybody.
My other nectar collector in California has a wider tube.
Is that what she said?
So because of that, you can get a bigger hit with that one. But the 2 little dabs that I just did were potent and good. But I just want to show you what's left on this dish, man. There's still, look at that. Plenty of oil. Remember, I was going to dab that in 1 dab. So it's so conserving, if that's a word. Yeah, it is. It's quite conservative. You might not like that term. Sorry. Well, maybe you do like that term. Yeah, we're on Rumble. It's quite conservative. Zippy Dito left. Okay, whatever. That's what they do. You tell them, you're like, hey, you guys that are watching on Instagram, you're just seeing a little sliver of the show. You should download Rumble, and on your phone, you can turn your phone sideways. You can see the whole screen. And they just leave. They feel like I shamed them or something. They're like, you caught us being, short attention span and blinded by our blinders.
I need to reboot real quick. Be right back.
Okay, see you in a second. My daughter, she has to roughen up her. Billy, that's hilarious. I'll look for it. Skeeterby sent me a Facebook request. I don't know about all that. I don't do Facebook. And let me tell you something. If you send me a friend request on Facebook, get in line, bro. I've got like over 1,000 names waiting for me to accept them as friends. And aren't you only allowed to have a certain amount of friends on Facebook, or is it unlimited now? Wasn't that stupid that they limited you to 5,000? And I hit 5,000 quick, and then I couldn't. And then people would be like, dude, I want to be your friend. And I have to try to delete people, and I didn't know who to delete. It was fucking pain, man. It's such a pain. Dude, these dabs are like awesome. So that's the Nectar Collector, and it's good for a smaller size dab. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was watching Destiny. He's live right now. I was watching him cover he was talking to this guy debating about Gaza, Israel. But the guy's just a total clown show that he's talking to. He's got him on video. And he's wearing a white jacket with little tiny pinstripes on. He looks like a fucking clown show. The dude, and he talks like a clown show too. And it's almost worth just bringing up just to show you that really quickly. He is still alive. Let me see if it comes up. Yes, the guy's still with him. Oh my God. This guy's such a clown show.
I first got that move now. I can't stay slow.
Wow.
You alright?
I don't understand why I'm having such a hard time finding this. Why won't that pop up, man? That's weird. There it is. Look at this clown show.
And it seems like a hideous future of increasing Israeli,
Your jacket is hideous, bro.
Control, some violent Palestinian resistance, and just
What are you wearing? A fucking out-of-tune old TV set?
I mean, if the rhetoric is just America is responsible for every single thing our allies do, and the resolution or lack
What
of
are you wearing,
our
dude?
allies, have to solve, then I
A
guess
fucking
yeah,
maze?
completely fucked.
Is it
I think
is
that
it some
what
sort of
should happen-
a line puzzle?
I think that
What is that? Oh, I know. That's so we can write music on your jacket.
Politician would never play places.
We
There
can
would be
write
no
some
conversation
music.
with an Israeli prime minister.
Those are
Listen,
music
you need to give
lines.
up all of
You're an
this
idiot.
territory.
You're a fucking
And you
clown.
accept this
And
huge
no one should ever
recognition.
take you
And
seriously
until you figure that
only
out, like,
based
God,
on the
I'm
fact
warning
that you would wear that fucking jacket.
He's got a whole 5-minute ramble. You just said that the only way you can solve this is to go back to the 67 borders, give up East Jerusalem, and
What did I say? I don't think the listening is not.
What did you say, clown show?
Sounded like
I can't hear you through how loud that jacket is. I can't hear a word you're saying, bro.
Like you said, they didn't
All
even
I
ask
hear
you
is
about
your
your
jacket going That's all I hear.
That deal would look like the
Is Willy Wonka a dude or a girl? Right, Billy?
Yeah, that ends up being very close to what was nearly reached
At the Taba Summit or the Omer deal.
2008.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's not crazy, right? You
If
say
something was
that's
almost
not
reached, well, the conditions are.
I don't use
less
Facebook,
crazy.
Michael.
It is crazy.
right. A little bit, a little bit more nudging, a little bit more assertion of muscle by
The
United
situation
States.
is getting worse and worse for Palestinians. So why would we think the deals would be getting better and better?
The deal is the same.
No, the deals would get.
Regardless of the
There are
situation.
more settlers living in the West Bank now than there were 20 years ago, than there were 10 years
This
ago.
is Willy
So the
Wonka
situation is
chocolate
getting
jacket.
more dire. The only reason the Abraham Accords started was because Netanyahu was on the verge of annexing parts of Area C.
Yeah.
So the situation is getting more dire for Palestinians. Americans aren't ready to support a Palestinian state insofar as we're going to take away funding from Israel for it, so that's going to happen. So we're going to be, what, 2030 with you parroting the same line?
Countries can change policy overnight.
We're not going to, though.
They're not going to if Americans are people like yourself, right?
Ugh.
No, they're not going to. Bro, I'm not even that. I don't care that
I'm
much.
sorry.
I'm talking about people that are
But-
40, 50, 60, 70. These people love Israel.
I'm
You know
sorry,
their opinions are
but
changing
our
overnight. And
task
Gen
as
Z, Gen X.
Americans,
Okay.
Our task, each one of us as an American citizen, our task is to try and alter. I know it's very difficult because
It's not difficult. It's just this is a virtue signal. Like this is a.
It is a virtue signal.
Because you're not talking about politics now. We're talking about like things that would sound good on TikTok or tweets. This is not a policy that's changing. There is a realistic path towards a resolution of this problem, and that realistic path exists in Israel with the Palestinians and with the Israelis. This weird take that it will only happen at the behest of America is it's ahistorical for the region, and it's a doomer take.
No, it's not. How is it a doomer? In fact, I'm the one who actually believes that United States policy can be changed and that an agreement can be reached. It's really the opposite of a doomer take. I don't understand that. I don't understand the sense of the idea, the futility of the idea that the United States can actually change its policy.
The frames taste like snozberries, Billy.
I don't know where it comes from. I mean, I think we could broker a settlement to this conflict. I think, but instead, we've made it clear, as Joe Biden has said, that there aren't really actual red lines for Israel. Or if
We don't even know who would we even negotiate with. Who even represents the Palestinians at this point?
Well, I mean, the Palestinians have multiple representatives, but you have to get all parties down together.
The parties don't even want to work together.
There has to be one. I'm sorry, but it has to be. That's what has to happen. It's very difficult in conflict situations where there are different groups with different agendas.
Yeah, but the
It's not
difficulty,
easy.
this is what the Palestinians have to solve. You can't solve it for them. So we try to do with the Oslo Accords and the Palestinian Authority, and people don't even recognize them as a legitimate Palestinian entity. Abbas has like 9% support in his population.
That's right. So you have to. So it's very, very difficult to build consensus around an agreement. We have to do what we can. Something doesn't happen if we put our thumb on the scale in one direction.
Do you think Palestinians have any responsibility to try to do this?
Weapons to one party. Of course, every party to the conflict has a responsibility to try and push for a just outcome.
So what is the Palestinian responsibility when it comes to managing people like Hamas?
What I believe is to. It's very difficult in a conflict situation, but obviously I'm a believer in nonviolence, right? I mean, I'm an opponent of terrorism. I think it ends it continues the cycle of violence. I mean, it just makes it so obviously there'll be. And I think you'll probably agree with this. There'll just be hideous Israeli reprisals, and the whole Gaza Strip is now being destroyed.
Sure.
And,
So that's your take, but if we would hold elections tomorrow, Palestinians would overwhelmingly vote for Hamas. So what do we do about that? How do we negotiate peace with them?
Well, I mean, as I say, Hamas has actually made it clear that, I mean, what they've said is that what they want is Palestinian sovereignty. So if that's on the table,
And the right of return is a big stickler point.
Yeah, it is. It is a big stickler point. But you gotta,
21:55.
You've got to.
They did in 2000 and 2008. They didn't
Doing
figure
a
anything
normal
out. Nothing
dab.
got solved.
You have to stop
A
vetoing
big-ass
the
dab.
ceasefire resolutions of the UN. You have to tell both
I
parties
cannot actually
to
do a
stop.
giant dab with
You have to hold them to
the
it.
nectar collector.
You have to say, Hamas has
It
to
cools
release
off too
hostages,
quick.
Israel has to stop attacking Gaza, and then a final permanent settlement to the conflict has to be reached.
Do you think that
And
Israel would
I
be
think-
content to negotiate an independent state next to it where Hamas
think
is the
Hamas-
government?
Yeah, they don't. Israel certainly doesn't want a Palestinian state.
I didn't say a Palestinian state. I said a state where Hamas is the primary government and administrator.
Yeah, no, I think they.
Dude, that red wall is so bad.
You know, but
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a fucking massage parlor or something like that.
Yeah, like a exactly, a freaking a house of ill repute. No law regarding cannabis. Cheers, Cyber. Cheers, everybody. Big dab. Big dab and a little bubbler.
I see it. It's just as a morally urgent issue for the United States to try and broker a solution to this conflict. Instead, I just see us sending weapons and admonitions.
Okay, I'm dying to know the answer. What do you think is the best resolution to the Ukrainian-Russian war?
I don't know. It's tough, right? Isn't it tough? Do you know that?
What do you think a just resolution would be? If you could snap your
I mean, a
fingers.
just resolution would be that Russia would leave Ukrainian territory, like 'cause it's an illegal occupation and annexation. I mean, I'm the anti-occupation, as I think I've made quite clear over the course of this conversation.
Okay, I respect that. I respect that.
So, but I wonder how you feel about what realistically, obviously given that Russia is nuclear on power, what realistic outcome this conflict could have that wouldn't involve Ukraine giving up territory.
I mean, I'm a fan of arming the Ukrainians as much as they need for them to fight, as much as they want to fight. I imagine, ideally, that would look like them at least winning back the Donbass, if not Crimea. I don't know how realistic that is. Probably, maybe not too realistic. But, I mean, at some point, if the conflict drones on for years and years and years or something, and it's like, okay, well, then we don't have the manpower to fight them, so like, yeah, then unfortunately you have to accept some less than favorable.
Well, can I ask you? Let me ask you this though: how
Destiny looks rough because he's jacked, bro.
goes on for 4 years and then hundreds of thousands of people die, and then we go, oh well, we reached the same point that we would have reached years ago.
ESP Gaming. He have been hating on Destiny quite. Just once in a while he says something out of the fucking he just say something, and it's aimed at Destiny. There was something he said the other day, again, aimed at Destiny. Oh, all the big streamers sitting there and acting happy and fucking on Pixix different snorting Adderall. It's not fucking Adderall they're snorting, I think he said Adderall about it or something like that.
He's got a new drug. Destiny said it. He's got something new that his doctor put him on. And he says it's better than Adderall. And he grinds his fucking jaw all day, bro. If you just sit here with the sound off and just watch Destiny, he's just grinding his jaw and grinding and grinding. You know what's gonna happen? He's gonna literally have.
I fucking see it now when you say it. Man.
He's gonna have a really bad problem. He's gonna have a physical problem with his jaw, and it's sad, man.
Even when he talks, it fucking does it. Right?
Yeah, this is while he's talking. You'll notice it mostly, but it really is nonstop.
It's sad, man.
Yeah, man.
It was Percocet. He said Percocet. He said sitting there and doing pixie sticks and sniffing Percocet. No one is fucking wired like Destiny is fucking on Percocets too.
No, it ain't that.
Absolutely not.
I mean, god damn, bro. It's hard to watch, and you know what? I did that. I went through that.
And depending on how long he's been on it and how long he will be on it, then it's gonna be really fucking hard to kick. But
Then he'll be
he's a
harassed.
multi-millionaire, so he can fucking go to some retreat and get his blood fucking transfused.
No, look what
down
Billy
his
just
body
said.
and again.
Look what Billy just said. It won't just be his jaw. It'll be his jaw, his back, his joints, his brain, his sinuses, his bowels, and then he'll be harassed.
Yeah, the sinuses, he's probably already fucking lost all
Then
that
he'll,
shit up in his
and then he
nose,
says,
man.
then he'll be harassed by death. You can't hear Cyber too well? All right, let me turn him up. Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you for telling me that, Michael. I didn't realize that. Look at Taco in the chat.
You can make a justice argument all you want, but the fact is that Israel is more powerful than you, so you need to accept something realistic, given who the more powerful party is. Here.
Wow.
Because in Ukraine, you say, it doesn't matter that Putin is more powerful. What matters is you have the right not to be occupied, and you should pursue justice.
You just said you should respect who's more powerful, dude. You don't even make sense.
So there's two different refutations of this. So on the first
Okay.
one, I would say that my position is exactly the same.
Okay.
And if I wanted to say the position was the same, what I would say is the Palestinian situation is just far more dire. That I could imagine that if we went back to 1947 or 1948 and the Arabs are fighting against the Israelis, I would say, listen, I understand why you're fighting. I fucking support it. Go for it. I mean, like, if you feel like they're invaders and they were right here and the British didn't, they fucked you over, fucking fight. And I've said as much in 47, 48. I understand. I'm sympathetic towards the fighting there. Same thing with Ukraine right now. I'm sympathetic towards fighting. Let's say that we went 15 years into the future. Ukraine's economy was shattered. They had, lost like 50% of their population of men aged 18 to 21. They weren't making any more gains. At some point, I'd probably be like, listen, man, this sucks, but like,
Yeah.
the chances of you winning this is
I know. I know. He constantly grinds his fucking jaw. I know, it's horrible. I feel so bad for him. He's a smart dude.
the reputation I would say is the situations are morally dissimilar, such that in 91,
What's that, Cyber?
Yes, I know he's not dumb,
Yeah.
the history in Israel-Palestine has always been far more ambiguous, and it hurts the Palestinian side of the argument when all of the Israeli expansion came after attempted mass wars to remove Israel from the continent and to fight a war that was it Abba Yaban, I think, that said that the Palestinians are always one generation behind on peace. I think that basically once they lose in 48, they want to go back to 47. Once they lose in 67, they want to go back to 48. Once they lose in, after the first and second Intifada, after the Area C expansions, they want to go back to the beginning of the Oslo Accords. Like, it can't just be this, you fight and you try to gain everything, and then when you lose, you want to go back to the prior thing. It changes the way that I view these two situations morally.
Well, I think the Palestinian narrative would be, yes, we at every stage we resist our dispossession, and then we get dispossessed, and then we continue to resist and we preserve our rights. We still believe in justice.
Yeah, but the problem with that argument is that if
we
you're
still want our sovereignty.
Yes, the problem though when you say you resist your dispossession and you try really hard to fight against what you think is unfair, that argument doesn't work to take you back to the 48 borders. That argument takes you back to before Israel existed as a state. And that's the issue that a lot of Israelis feel Palestinians want, and a lot of Palestinians probably want, is to just have their own one
I
state.
think I agree that in theory the position is that Zionism was never a legitimate enterprise, but I think in practice a lot of Palestinians have come a lot closer to this. As you say, the situation is very dire.
Wait, why is Zionism never a legitimate enterprise? I'm curious. If there's like 50, 60, whatever Muslim states, why can't there be one Jewish one?
Well, I think because the argument is because it would have violated the rights of self-determination of the people who were in the land when...
Exactly, man.
But the
God,
people
he's
when the
right.
project began
Yes.
sold that land.
Clown show got something right.
No, the people... No.
He's making sense.
The Arabs who were in Palestine at the time...
Yeah, there were people there. Nakba, bro.
The idea is that
They cleaned them out. They ethnically cleansed the land and brought the Jews in.
Why do they have more of a right to be exclusionary to any else.
Because they were already there.
It was,
I think
Because that's their home, bro. Because that's where they lived.
Self-determination means something like majority vote.
Now they're not
The
making any
issue
sense.
is that it was the Ottoman Empire. That country collapsed. Britain and France, Sykes-Picot, all that, divvied up into these mandates, and then people moved into the territory because the Brits also made a promise to the Jews about integration, that. So what right do the Arabs have to say to the Jews, whom they willingly sold land to, actually, fuck you guys, you will need to leave, or you can't have a state here? I just don't understand where that
You
right.
can't have a state here because we are the majority. Who do you argue?
Well, I'm just curious. Do we really believe that argument? Like, let's say, for instance, there were so many more Jews that ended up moving that they were the majority. Does that change now?
Yeah, I think it changes the argument.
You think that if there was a majority Jews? Okay.
Well, one of the arguments that was made was that the immigration itself was imposed without any consent, right?
Well, it depends on what
So
you
if
mean.
the
I mean, like,
immigration had been consensual and produced a Jewish majority, then that would, then you'd have an argument. But the immigration wasn't consensual, so
it was like consensual from who? Like, the Palestinians didn't put government there to regulate stuff.
right. But I think they would say that it's not their fault that they would govern.
Yeah, but what right do they have to tell anybody else who they can or cannot have in that area? Like,
Well,
I just think the argument, I don't think it's quite as clear cut as saying that it's like an unethical thing.
They would claim the right that we claim over our border to decide who comes in and who doesn't.
Well, but that's different because we have a nation, right? We have a government, we've got an administrator, we can decide
Yes.
who comes in and
But-
goes.
I think the argument would be that they
33 birdie, 33 birdie.
Okay,
All right,
let's say-
Seymour
let's say
Cannabis,
we
cheers.
grant all that. What
Ain't
fault
nothing
is that
better.
that you-
Okay, right. Alex, you
Wouldn't
got
the
me
fault-
being
wouldn't the
harassed.
fault
Strict
just
nines,
be
one of the
the
highways.
British
You
government?
took his
Well,
advice and
also,
turned around.
yeah,
Billy.
well, I
But
also
he's
would
dumb. He
blame
thinks he
the
needs these things to do content.
for
Dumb.
Palestine.
And furthermore,
Although
we're
I
condoning
do
it by
like
being
building
entertained by it.
a
But
Jewish
fuck it.
state,
Ha,
I
fuck him.
think
But
national
wait, what about
security
this?
is not a- that kind of rejects the idea.
Is it possible that Destiny is medicating an actual diagnosed condition that he suffers from? And that he
You
just...
definitely overdo it then, because no doctor will fucking pump you so full that you're sitting and grinding your jaw
Yeah,
like that.
right? God, man.
And that's why, Zionism has a very morally compelling case for
I'm
it.
say
Why
33,
we need to
40. Cheers, everybody, to
Well,
Law
that is a
regarding
morally
cannabis.
compelling reason. Then how can we say it's clearly like a morally
Yeah,
down
well,
project?
just-
Like to just say out of hand,
Well,
like, well, I'm an anti-Zionist.
for the same, because rights conflict, right? So you can say that someone has a very compelling claim to something, some piece of land, and someone else also has a very good. This is why I resisted your thing about who's the aggressor.
Okay.
Because I feel like, depending on what point of view you look at it from, you could see it both ways. I know that's not a satisfying answer. I realize that's not a satisfying answer, but that's
No, the
not-
clarity that I would give is, because I understand your answer there, is when I'm asking who an aggressor is, I mean it in a local in time, like who aggressor is. I understand what you're saying, though, that when I say, who is the aggressor in the 48 war, you would say, well, when you say aggressor, the implication is first attacker, and if they viewed the formation of the state as an attack, then they're responding to the attacks that would be. I understand what you're saying, but there's...
But so, right. I think one of the problems is when you single out like historical incidents, then who's the right? So on October 7th, obviously Hamas the aggressor. If I am in a neighborhood in Gaza, I have nothing to do with Hamas. Someone comes along and bombs my house. To me, they are the aggressor.
Yeah, but I think we have to look at the actions of the states as well. And if I live in a territory and I'm supporting a government, or if there is a government and that government is just like regularly lobbing rockets into my neighbor, I'm probably gonna get fucked up as a result of that. Like,
But then, I agree with you. But then what we do, right, is go, okay, I feel like you get into this thing where you go, well, Israel bombs Gaza because Gaza loves rockets, but Gaza loves rockets because Gaza's under siege, but Gaza's under siege because it loves rockets, but, and you take infinite regress until you get back to the beginning line, right? Let's do that every time.
yeah, which is a problem, I agree.
Yes.
But I think that
Which is why aggressor is like...
Sure, I understand what you're saying. I think that my macro issue with the problem is that it feels like Jews can be brought to the table to negotiate if there's a political reality that forced them to do so. And I don't feel like that same reality exists for Palestinians because they have so much international support and never seem to have to suffer a real loss in response to aggression. So, for instance,
well, they don't believe they should have to suffer a real loss in response.
That's fine, but every country really does. This is one of the reasons why countries feel like they have to be careful with how they conduct themselves. Because if you do a crazy thing and people don't support you, you're like.
I would quote Destiny to you, right? See, we need to have a little more pursuit of justice and a little less pursuit of an unjust peace.
Sure,
but that was true. I thought that really, but a lot of people really feel that way, right?
I agree, yeah, but the justice question is incredibly hazy in the Palestinian territories.
To the death. Well, I don't think certain aspects of the justice question are not hazy, right?
Well, the question, for instance, of Palestinian refugees is a very weird, the unique treatment that they have compared to anybody else. There is no apartheid. There is no apartheid.
Well, hang on. I've seen you say conflicting things on this because I've seen you say, okay. Yeah, there's apartheid, but really what we're really just talking about is a military occupation. And then I've seen you say there is no apartheid.
Yeah, so I think initially what I would have said was, I'm willing to give up on maybe there's apartheid in the West Bank, but like the solution needs to be the ending of the occupation to solve that problem. Right. But if we're talking about apartheid and the war crime of apartheid, and specifically apartheid, we're talking about top-down systems of racial discrimination and racial dominance. But if we look at the issues between Palestine and Israel, it's usually an issue of citizenship or not. It's not a racial domination.
Yeah, but how do they grant citizenship? I mean, Jews could move to Israel, but if you were Edward Said, he couldn't move to Israel. So
there are more Arabs living in Israel than there are Jews living in every other Arab country around the world combined. So the idea that you have to be Jewish to have rights in Israel when there are 2 million Arab Israelis.
Hang on. It's not that you have to be Jewish to have rights in Israel. It's that if you're Jewish, you have a greater right. You have the right to move to Israel.
No, hold on. Israel has a right to control its immigration policy. However,
fucking crazy.
The country wants to say you can only let in white people, whatever. That's fine.
That's correct.
The issue would be is do they treat their citizens differently? But they don't. Arab Israelis enjoy all the same legal rights than non-Arab Israelis.
There is a racially discriminatory regime that decides who gets to come and live.
Not Palestinian.
Wait. Hold on. That's every single regime in the world is allowed to practice whatever.
I'm confused now.
Whether I'm Jewish or not affects whether I could go to Israel, but that doesn't affect whether I could come to the United States. Didn't have that.
I'm saying that every country in the world has a right to regulate their immigration policy.
That's not under dispute.
Yeah, so they can make this on racial lines. They can make this on ethnic lines, on family lines, on whatever.
Yeah. You make it on racial lines. That's when you have a racist apartheid system. Right, so if the United States, when the United States was making decisions on the basis of race, right, that gets you closer and closer to having a system of racial dominance.
No.
And I feel like you're going back to, do they have the right to regulate? When the real question is, how do they regulate?
So, hold on. When we talk about apartheid, we're talking about how people are treated in a country. Not
Wonka wants to send him down the bad egg hole while using him as a gold egg the whole time.
No. Yeah, but hang on a minute. What determines whether
he's
you
embracing
cross
that shit.
The wall and go live, go from the West Bank and go live in Israel?
Your citizenship.
You're Jewish.
I wonder what the side effects from that drug that he uses.
No,
hold on, no. If you were a Jew trying to get in and you weren't an Israeli citizen, you would be tossed at the border. You would have to immigrate. You have to go through the process of immigration into that country.
Right, but if you're Jewish, you can move to Israel.
Yes, that is their immigration policy. But apartheid refers to the treatment of people in a country. Apartheid is not immigration. Apartheid is not when you have an immigration policy.
Well, hang on a minute, though. Is the West Bank part of Israel?
I can't give you a simple answer.
Because if it is part of Israel, right? If it is part of Israel, then it's an apartheid policy disguised as an immigration policy.
Even if it was part of Israel, and even if it was a discriminatory thing, it's done along citizenship lines, not on lines of racial dominance. Because there are how do you contest with 2 million Arab Israelis that have the same rights as the people that live in Israel?
No, but
wait, how do you contend with that? If it was an apartheid state, how do you have Arabs who are in the government, in the Knesset? How do you have Arab parties that are part of the Israeli parliament? How do you have that in an apartheid state?
Easily. Well, the situation is that there is an apartheid in the West Bank, right? In Israel, the situation is not, in Israel proper, between Arab Israelis and Jews, the situation is not correctly described as apartheid. Now, the apartheid framework doesn't fit Israel exactly, but the voluminous reports from B'Tselem and the Human Rights Watch explain why they think the term should be applied to the situation
That's
in the
fine,
West.
and I've read a lot
Right?
of them. But the problem is when they talk about discrimination between one side and the other, they mistake race for citizenship. There's all these pictures on the Amnesty International website that shows, well, these are what Jews get, and these are what Palestinians get in the West
Yeah.
Bank. But what they ignore is an Arab Israeli person can go and move into Area C, and guess what? They would have all
Yeah.
the same rights and everything as a white, Jewish,
Well,
Ashkenazi, Sephardic, whatever other Jew. So it's not a system of racial discrimination or racial domination.
but
It's a
if
system,
you
it's an
decide-
occupation-related issue.
If you decide who gets to leave the, on the basis, if you decide who gets to come in on the basis of race, then it is a racialized system.
It's your
Right.
your immigration policy
I mean-
is separate from how you run inside your country. Do you agree, for instance, how can you say that there's racial discrimination when Arab Israelis can be settlers, when an Arab can be a settler?
Wait, why does that? I don't understand how that affects whether or not there is racial discrimination.
Because an apartheid
Because-
system is not just racial
But
discrimination, we're not just deciding who.
Hang on. Let's have a hypothetical here of a world in which a country is trying to maintain a quote demographic majority of a particular race,
Which is
And
every
they're
single
willing
country,
to
by the way.
allow-
Oh my God.
They're willing to allow a minority up to a certain level, but after that, they want to make absolutely sure they don't get too many of them coming in. Now that's a system of even if you let a few in, right? And you can say, well, look, the few in, we treat fine. But if you're trying to make sure, and obviously we know that the reason Israel doesn't want to fully incorporate the West Bank into it is because of the thing that's been discussed for the entirety of Israeli history, which is the demographic problem of what happens if you give all these people full citizenship rights. And the
I'm like one of
Arabs
those pictures
are
that hangs
majority.
on the wall
Like,
that wherever you
constantly
stand in the room,
racial
it's looking at you.
You know this is not.
I understand what you're saying. Apartheid
This
refers
is
to
not-
how you treat your citizens. You are talking about immigration policy that
Yeah,
refers
but-
to non-citizens. And you're saying
This
that
is-
because they have an immigration policy that might favor one race or one religion or one ethnicity or another, therefore apartheid. When apartheid has to exist within your citizenry. I do agree that there is
Wait a second,
uneven
what-
treatment of non-citizens and citizens in the West Bank. I agree with that.
I
That's just not
find-
apartheid. It's an
Yeah,
occupation.
but I find what's strange to me about the argument that you make here is that essentially it gives a loophole to anyone who wants to impose an apartheid regime. Because what they say is, look, we don't have a racial regime. We have a citizenship regime. Now, if we grant priority for citizenship to members of a particular racial group, that still doesn't prove. And if we have a huge number of people who happen to be of one racial group in a confined zone where we don't give them citizenship, and the reason that we don't give them citizenship is because we don't want them to have a demographic majority, it's a loophole, but does it describe a different situation? I don't think it really does.
But it super does. And even like morally and ethically and philosophically, it does. The idea that a state is trying to
Which
top-down,
blows hitting the gun on the
racially
wall, Billy.
dominating system that
Yeah.
maintains the superiority of one race over another, that's a really bad thing. I think it's worth it
Yeah.
to call that out. I think it's a horrible thing. But when we look at what's happening in Israel, and we say, well, apartheid doesn't exist in the Israel country, but in an occupied territory it does, like, okay, well, what's really the biggest factor at play here? It's probably the occupation. It's not really, because
Yeah,
what you're
but
saying, because
why-
you're saying that this is a strange loophole. It's not like any other country has occupied another country and immediately granted all of those citizens full voting rights. Like, was Germany an apartheid state in every single country they rolled
Why-
over, and they didn't grant full voting rights to all of those
Why
people?
would Israel?
Yeah.
Why would Israel never grant full citizenship rights to everyone in the West Bank?
I mean, there's going to be a variety of reasons.
It's because they're Arabs. That's why. Come on.
Wait,
Don't play
no,
dumb.
wait.
Come
Hold on,
on,
no.
don't play
No.
dumb. You know
Stop.
why
This is
there's so much
betrayed by the
discussion about
fact. This is
demographic
betrayed
problem.
historically by the fact that in Israel, and I'm
Come
sorry,
on,
hold
no,
on.
it isn't.
No.
Because
In
it's about
47,
maintaining a Jewish majority.
in 47, Israel accepted 400,000 Arabs and 500,000 Jews, along with
Oh,
80,000 Bedouin in one partition.
I
So
know.
Israel
But-
was already willing to do that.
but
Two,
what do they need-
Israel
what do
today.
they need to maintain?
Israel.
What did they need to maintain?
Two,
The
they're Jewish character.
majority.
Yes, yep, they're Jewish character. And two is
Right.
Israel has currently like 2 million Arab Israeli citizens that live within their borders. Okay.
I don't.
So the issue, when you say the issue with what happens if they fully annex the West Bank, one, I do agree there would be a difficulty in shoring up the Jewish character of their state if they did that annexation. But two, the international community of the surrounding states wouldn't agree with that full annexation. And most importantly, three, I don't think Palestinians would agree to that annexation.
They are not willing to even consider. We know that no one in Israeli politics would ever, because I mean the so-called one-state solution, right, is just give equal rights to everyone in Israel, West Bank, Gaza, and the reason that it would never be entertained is because it would create an Arab majority.
Why? Wait, just curious. Why is that an issue?
Because you kind of a Jewish state.
Yeah, but why is that an issue? Do you think there's a legitimate concern there, or is that just born of hatred?
Why is it an issue to not have a Jewish state?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to ask Zionists why they wanted a Jewish state.
So you're going to tell me all this stuff about the expansionists of Zionism. I bet you know all these quotes by Weizmann,
but you don't know the reason
and
for it all.
Ben-Gurion and Moshe Dayan. I bet you know
Well,
all
that's
these
not
things.
trivial
Wait,
stuff.
that's trivial
That's
stuff.
not
But we
trivial
can't
stuff.
imagine why the
That's
Jews.
not trivial stuff.
Okay,
no,
but
I
we
understand.
can't imagine why the Jews want a Jewish majority state, or why they might be
Yeah.
hesitant to just completely and totally absorb a certain population, give them equal voting rights and everything else to the people living there. Is there you don't think there's a legitimate concern there at all?
We can certainly understand why. I mean, I've mentioned why I think there was a legitimate reason, the legitimate cause for Zionism. But why? What are you asking?
I'm asking, what do you think an average Israeli citizen would think? Oh, if we just absorb every Palestinian, we make all of them citizens, and we are a Jewish minority now, and now an Arab majority state, what do you think they think would happen?
They think they're going to lose the Jewish character of their state.
But what would happen following that?
And they think,
What would happen following that?
probably a collapse into civil disorder because neither side trusts the other at all.
Okay, I
Right,
think the
because
thing that
they
they're
both
worried
consider
about.
themselves
Okay,
to be-
we'll just say
because
I don't know.
both
I don't know. I
sides are
don't. Wait,
convinced-
this is such an easy thing to
Ugh.
admit, right? They think
Because
they.
Billy.
both sides are convinced that the other one is bent on their destruction.
Okay, and the Palestinians kind of have been for Israel for a long time, maybe justifiably so, for at least in the beginning. No,
No, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all.
you don't think
I mean-
after seeing things like the October 7th attacks, after the
No,
justifications of the
because
support for
I don't-
Hamas,
because
after
I
the
do
Second
not
Intifada.
No, I don't think there is majority Palestinian support for a genocide against Israel, against all Jews in Israel. No.
Even if that support was only,
I
there
don't- I
might,
don't
for in
think
terms of violent action, there might be. There's the. I would have to go look at the particular.
I
Not a
think that
genocide,
there
but like
probably-
support for the October 7th attacks and for violence.
Yeah, but the problem is that everyone's convinced that the October 7th attacks were different than they actually were.
Sure,
And,
but like
I think
let's
you
say.
talked about this, is that nobody thinks that their side is willing to do horrible atrocities.
Sure, but like let's say for instance, let's say that it wasn't going to be the majority of the new Palestinian population. Let's say it was only, we'll say only 60% of them. Wouldn't that be enough? If you absorb 60% of the people into your country that want to see you destroyed or removed, or
I don't think 60%. You think 60% of Palestinians want to commit a genocide? Is this the
not committed genocide, but see a one-state created where
Yeah.
where it's an Arab character state, where things like Sharia law, perhaps a Islamist dictatorship or a non-secular theocratic dictatorship. Where
Yeah.
Jews are treated as dhimmi again. Do you think
Billy,
that might be a fair assumption that could happen?
Potatoes under the cabinet that you forgot about like
What
a
do you
year
think?
ago.
If, let's say that it's unrealistic. Wait. You mean like the one-state
That
solution is
abroad
unrealistic, or?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, obviously.
Well, but I'm asking, like, don't we
I
think?
agree that
I feel
that's
like
what
this is
happened.
probably
Right.
a fair
But wait a second.
fear.
So, but we are conceding here the entire point at issue, right? Because if you're saying, if you're saying here, there are legitimate reasons why this group within the territory we control has to be denied citizenship, we're still conceding that the reason they're being denied citizenship has to do with their group membership.
It has to do with the ideology, I think, is the fear.
Yeah. I mean, but this is like, whites saying that we have to keep black people, white South Africans saying they'll kill us all if we give them something.
Hold on. whites saying we are scared of black people, so we don't want them to immigrate to our country is a far different moral and factual statement than blacks are scary, we want to oppress our own black citizens in our country. Those are two completely different things.
No, but we don't want to grant full citizenship rights to these people. Because
They don't run the territories fully. Palestinians have total autonomy in Area A and a lot of autonomy in Area B.
No,
Hamas is the administrators. That's true.
Conditional autonomy in a bunch of tiny little zones. It's conditional autonomy.
True. They had a whole contiguous map on the table in 2000 and
but
2008, and they
know that
rejected
don't
it
have
both
a state
times.
of their own. We know that they don't have what every other citizen of a democracy has, right? And Israel is supposedly a democracy, but it controls this area where it doesn't give people full democratic rights.
Yeah, but that's never been the case under any occupation ever.
But why is that relevant?
Because we wouldn't call all of those apartheid situations. We call those occupations.
Well, we would call those apartheid situations if the reason they weren't ending the occupation was because they wanted to maintain a certain ethnic majority. Well, we might. I mean,
I don't think it's necessarily an ethnic majority. I think it's an ideological component. Like, anybody can convert to Judaism and immigrate to
Well, maybe that's
Israel.
the solution for the Palestinians.
Well, but except if you can't do that conversion, because if you're a Jew in Area A, they'll kill you.
We should all convert. And immigrate.
I don't think they want to die.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know you don't like the heavy words, you know.
Well, I don't like the heavy
But,
words because, like, for instance, here's the issue why I don't like the heavy words. This is the issue. Hold on. This is the issue why I don't like the heavy words.
Hold on.
Okay, is because I think the facts on the ground kind of suck. I think that it does suck that there's essentially two systems of judgment in the West Bank, right? Which is true, right? You've got military courts for Palestinians. You've got ordinary protection for settlers. You've got the IDF that probably favorably protects settlers over Palestinians. You've got Area C Jews that basically employ cheap labor from Area B and A. Even if the Palestinians do control Area A and B, the checkpoints that they're going to drive through and the harassment and the not control the border, I think all of these things suck. And I think that it would be cool to spotlight those things and talk about them. Because if you talk to an Israeli far-right Zionist and you say, hey, don't you think the apartheid in the West Bank sucks? You're about to have a 15-hour conversation about what the fuck apartheid means, and if it is, like what we just had. But if you say, hey, if you were a Palestinian, don't you think it'd be really fucking irritating if every time you wanted to visit somebody in a different village, you got to get harassed by a bunch of people on these checkpoints? You can't really argue about that. Yeah, that would kind of fucking suck. I agree. And I think that's my issue with all the little, same thing with the genocide or everything too. It's like, is there a genocide or not? Like, why the fuck get into that? Doesn't it suck that civilians are dying, buildings are being destroyed, hospitals are being destroyed? Like, shouldn't that be the focus?
I had on my notes for this conversation, try not to debate the meaning of words for a very long time.
Sure,
because,
but it's important.
Precisely because although I do think that you have should we say an uncommonly high threshold for some of these words. Like,
hold on, when you say uncommonly high threshold, just to be clear, nobody's even been convicted of the crime of apartheid, even including South Africa. I'm just saying, the legal definition of these words is actually quite high, but go ahead.
Well, I know, but I heard you say on your debate, like, Israel could drop a nuclear bomb and kill 2 million Gazans, and it might not be legally genocide.
Because the parts of genocide are the act, which nuking the Gaza Strip is certainly qualified for, but the other part would be the intent to eliminate a group of people, right?
Well, I mean, I think that there have been enough statements by high Israeli officials about their desire to flatten Gaza that if they didn't flatten Gaza, we could pretty well assume they intended to flatten Gaza.
True,
I
that
agree.
is true. But if we're trying to tease out the difference, what then is the difference between genocide and war?
Well, the difference would be that if I want to flatten a city, that's...
War is two-sided. Genocide is just one's doing war on the other.
I mean, like, we dropped
This is
2
pretty
atomic bombs.
pretty
Japan,
simple.
There was the firebombing of Tokyo. I think we raised
I answered that
26
one
different
quickly.
cities to the ground. There was the bombing
Wait
of
a
Dresden.
second, though. Am I going to be the one who did... hang on a minute.
Sure.
You're talking to a leftist. I find the atomic bombs just one of the most hideous genocidal crimes in history.
Sure. And that's fine if you... Well, wait. You said genocidal.
this
I agree
idea-
that they were... We can argue that they were bad, and they can argue that civilians died, but genocidal?
Remember what they said? They said there are no civilians in Japan.
Yes, but is that genocidal?
And that's why it was justified to intentionally try and obliterate a huge number of civilians.
So then What is
So, yeah,
genocide
I
in
think
your mind then?
dropping-
What does that mean to you then?
Everybody, thanks for watching Cyber. Thank you.
The term is imprecise.
I'll see you guys all
Well, I think
on
it's
the
pretty
next
precise.
show, whenever that
When
is.
you try to